Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my top pick for historical RTS, as we make history our story. donHaize is the name and Age of Empires IV is the game. In today's video we take on the Mongol Horde campaign.
From the vast reaches of the Mongolian steppe, an army of over 100,000 men swept aside all resistance, claiming territories that spanned continents. Their leader, Genghis Khan, proclaimed his life's ambition was to unite the world under one empire. Having conquered the East, the Mongols turned their attention to the west, where they would come face to face with some of the greatest armies of medieval Europe. Would Genghis Khan's legendary warriors finally meet their match? By 1221, the Mongols had taken cities throughout Asia, generating vast amounts of tribute from those they conquered. The West, however, was still an untapped resource. Genghis Khan sent his trusted generals, Jebei and Subutai, to attack Europe. With an army of 20,000, Jebei and Subutai took the West by surprise, raiding cities and destroying armies. Within 2 years, they had the prosperous Rus territories in their sights. But in their way was a Rus army of over 40,000 men. Outnumbered, Jebei and Subutai turned and started to head back east. The Rus sensed an easy victory and set off in pursuit of their retreating enemies. For 8 days, the fast-moving Mongols stayed just out of reach. Then, Jebei and Subutai set their trap. They lured the Rus across the Kalka River and turned to fight. The Rus had fallen for one of the Mongols' most effective tactics, the feigned retreat. The stage was set for the Mongol army to test themselves against Europe's finest. The Mongols charged across the European plains, with the fatigued Rus army in close pursuit. The Rus had fallen for the Mongol tactic of the feigned retreat, and unknowingly followed them into peril. The Mongol general sprung his trap on the enemy scouts. With the Rus scouts cut down, General Subutai crossed the Kalka River. Here, he would stage a full-scale ambush on the vast Rus army. Subutai directed his warriors to split up and lie in wait for the enemy.
Alrighty folks, welcome to the Mongolian campaign. This is the, I guess you'd call it tutorial mission. There's no building on this mission, instead it's like a narrated fight, which seems to be a theme with these Age of Empires IV campaigns. The first mission is very much just getting you into the swing of things. So initially we're going to be splitting up our lancers and horsemen into 3 groups, all under one hotkey. They will be making up the bulk of our ambush army. And in the meantime, we're going to be using our Khan and the Mandagai, or horse archers, to soften up the enemies when the Rus spawn in, and then be luring the Rus into the ambush site. I will say, straight off the bat, Mandagai are insanely good at just softening up the enemies.
For Subatai's strategy to be effective, he needed to spring his trap before the Rus recovered from their long pursuit. He sent his most fearsome Mangadai horse archers to draw the Rus quickly towards the ambush site. These highly skilled warriors could fire their bows rapidly while riding at speed. The Mongol provocation was effective, and the Rus hastily pursued.
Now, I could be wrong about this, but I am fairly certain that Mandagai are the only units that can move and shoot at the same time. There might be an upgrade for normal horse archers, but I'm not entirely sure, and not all factions get them anyway. But yeah, Mandagai really are just an S-tier unit. They are so good. They're even good against buildings when you upgrade the flaming arrow upgrade. So yeah, pretty good unit. Something we'll be taking full advantage of throughout the entirety of this campaign, that's for sure.
The Rus army had fallen for the feigned retreat and rode straight into the Mongol ambush. With the enemy surrounded, Subatai's battle-ready warriors descended from all sides.
Well, it is go time. Although I will say the left side looks a bit weak, so we're going to have to pull some of the lancers from the middle to support, take down these archers. Yeah, that's not looking too hot, but that's not too big of a problem. We can support fairly quickly. Might have pulled the trigger a hair early. We will be utilising the Khan's attack speed buff on the Mandagai, which is just insane. I mean, it pretty much like doubles the attack speed from Mandagai, which just, again, yeah, takes them to another level entirely. Insane.
The Mongol ambush was devastating, and Rus numbers were reduced to a few desperate stragglers. Seeing the fate of their comrades, the last Rus encircled themselves in a makeshift fort of baggage carts.
So it's quite interesting, actually. The Mongols play so completely differently to all the other factions in this game, certainly from a campaign perspective. They're very raid-heavy and very, very horseman-centric, which is something that will be on full display as we continue throughout the campaign, certainly into like the next mission and beyond. But yeah, they basically generate resources from raiding or burning buildings, which means you can amass the most ridiculous armies really quickly without actually needing to focus much time and attention on economy, certainly in the campaign anyway. The other thing I really like about the Mongols is they utilize these lancers, which are really, really good units. They're tanky, they do lots of damage, they're just leagues ahead of horsemen. And then obviously you got the Mandagai, which are the bulk of their DPS. Not to mention the Khan that gives loads of buffs to your units as well. Pretty cool faction overall. GG's.
The Rus stockade fell. Despite a valiant last stand, the remnants of the Rus army were cut down. Spurred on by the crushing victory at the Kalka River, the Mongols advanced ever further into the heartland of the Rus. noise and confusion of battle, communications were vital. One solution was the use of message arrows.
Signal arrows could be used to send messages to your drone troops. Faster than a man, faster than a horse.
It was the quickest way to communicate in the heat of battle. Whistling arrows were blunt, and most importantly, they announced their arrival. But they weren't just used to pass written messages. When shot in a volley, whistling arrows could be loud enough to signal to a small group of warriors, telling them both where and when to attack. On hearing the sound, they would gallop in and strike where the arrows landed. However, a much louder sound was required to sound the retreat or to communicate to the whole army. That was the job of the war drums.
The Mongols also used gongs, and the combinations of drums and gongs gave the Mongols a wide array of signaling options.
We do not know the exact rhythms they used, but basic commands could be conveyed with different percussive patterns. They enabled the Mongols to communicate with their own forces and strike fear into the enemy. They were the heartbeat of the Mongol army. On the banks of the Kalka River, thousands of Rus were killed by the Mongols. The hunters had become the hunted. But in the years leading up to this Mongol raid in the west, Genghis Khan had been focusing his attacks on the east and the Qin dynasty of northern China. Controlling wealthy lands and trade routes, Qin cities overflowed with riches. In 1210, the Qin's new ruler, seeing Genghis Khan as a threat, demanded that he swear loyalty to him. Genghis Khan refused. To the Qin, this defiance was a declaration of war. The Qin had a huge army, and their territory was protected by vast fortifications, known today as the Great Wall. The Mongols had never faced a more formidable enemy. Genghis Khan knew the only way to defeat the Qin would be to take their heavily defended capital city, Zhongdu, on the other side of the Great Wall. Genghis Khan would be committing his people to a long, hard war. Would the rewards be worth the cost? For answers, he looked to the gods. Climbing a sacred mountain, he prayed to the eternal sky. After 4 days, he received his answer. The Mongols would be victorious. With divine reassurance, the Mongol army set out across the steppe. They must break through the Great Wall to destroy the Qin dynasty and further expand the Mongol Empire. The Qin fortress of Xiangyang blocked Genghis Khan's path to the Great Wall. Seeing the strength of the defenses at the front of the fortress, Genghis Khan dispatched his scouts to seek out an alternate approach. Mongol warfare relied heavily on the mobility of mounted scouts. They could travel at high speed, explore the terrain, and gather information on enemy weaknesses. The Khan's swift riders advanced up the steep mountain, discovering a hidden path above the Qin fortress. The Qin had deployed patrols on the mountain above their fortress. But the Mongol scouts, although isolated from their army, had the advantage of speed.
So we're going to split our scouts up so we can maximize the opportunities available to us, i.e. this gold, whilst the other scout does the main objective.
The Mongol riders discovered an embankment leading to the back of the fortress. Here they found far fewer Qin defenses than at the front. Learning of the weak defenses at the back of the fortress, Genghis Khan saw his opportunity to attack. The Mongols began their ride to battle. If the Mongols took the fortress, they could freely advance on the Great Wall.
Alright, so the plan with this mission is to send the army down to this base, around the back path, take it out, and then we move on to the Great Wall of China, which is quite a hard fought journey, but we will be able to pretty much get up to the wall. And this is also a building mission, so we'll actually be building up our forces, taking full advantage of the Mongolian raid ability. So every time we destroy a building, we get 150 food, wood, and gold, which we can then use to power up our forces. We'll mostly be utilizing the Lancers and a couple of Mandagai as well. So once we do take down this base, we are gifted a handful of spearmen and archers, which we can utilize with the main army to bring down the keep at the end of this mission. And then we're also going to be using these scouts to, well, scout. The reason we didn't send out the scouts earlier is because if we send them down this ledge without any troop support, there's a very high likelihood that they will die from the spearmen and archers and the outpost there as well. So, yeah, better to wait for the main army and sneak them out then.
The Mongols burned the enemy building, claiming valuable spoils from the ruins.
Since this keep is the main objective and also the biggest threat to our army, we're going to be taking that out next and ignoring the buildings, and then we'll come back for them afterwards. Just want to trigger the next stage of this this mission as early as possible so we can get to building and all that good stuff. So it's definitely worth destroying all their other buildings, including farms, just because of the resource that you generate from it.
The Mongols sacked the fortress of Xiangyang, ensuring that they would not be attacked from behind as they advanced on the Great Wall. With the Qin fortress posing no further threat, Genghis Khan called on his people to bring in their mobile camp. Next, the Mongols needed a base close to the Great Wall. They targeted the Qin village of Yangcheng.
So I need to make a slight correction on what I said earlier about how many resources you get per destroying buildings. It looks like it's based on age. So you actually gain 50 food, wood, and gold based on each age that you're in. So age 1, 50 of each. Age 2, 100, and then age 3, 150, etc. A slight oversight, actually, on my part. I forgot about that part of the mechanic.
Hearing of the Mongol advance, nearby Qin villages began sending attacks, hoping to weaken Genghis Khan's army.
I mean, I guess however you look at it, it's still a pretty much a busted mechanic for this campaign because it's so insanely good. Okay, so it's mostly stables that we want. So we're going to be building a nice big assortment of stables. We'll build an Uvu here. Go here. Also want a couple more pastures. And we want to level up to our second age. Alright, meanwhile, we'll start taking down some of these villages. So we're mostly going to be wanting lancers for this mission. And Mandugai. However, we can't get them until we hit age 2, so once the deer stones have been completed, we hit age 2, we can start powering up our military. And we'll be powering off of all the resources we acquire from raising the enemy structures to the ground. And it's mostly gold. Gold and food are the primary resources we need as the Mongol Empire.
By destroying the Qin village, the Mongols had stopped the attacks from its garrison.
Crap, we might as well just burn all this so we can get all the resources. Okay, build a gird there. Wait, so I think I might be right originally about this raiding mechanic. I just think it's been dumbed down for this mission.
Yanchong fell to the Mongols, and nothing now stood between Genghis Khan and the Great Wall.
Because, yeah, you normally do get 150 for all the resources. So
It was time to face the Qin head-on at the Great Mountain Pass at Xiangyang.
it must be just because it's like the second mission, they've turned it down to 50 to make it less effective. Huh. Interesting.
In order for Genghis Khan's assault to go as planned, he would need to move his base closer to the Great Wall. Fortunately, the Mongols specialized in the construction of mobile camps and could easily pack their holdings and move to a new location.
To be fair, we don't actually need to do that in this mission. Ordinarily, maybe. But yeah, we can... it's one of the advantages of just recruiting horsemen is that they traverse the map pretty quickly, so we actually don't have to relocate our camp at all. And yes, you can do it as Mongols, but it's still a pain. Definitely want to get the siege workshop upgrade, or siege engineering, just so we can build a couple of rams, which we will take advantage of whilst we power down this this wall. So interestingly, with Age of Empires 4, you can't destroy stone walls, but you can destroy stone gates with torches. So that's a mechanic we'll be taking advantage of. We'll also be upgrading our weapons. Oh, that's a pretty nasty flank. Didn't expect that. Well. Just going to group everyone up. And hopefully we can build us a couple of rams once that upgrade's finished. Lovely. Now it's the second flank. Luckily we have a lot of resources still, so no issues there.
The warriors of the grassland stormed the Great Wall. The formidable barricade, thought insurmountable, finally bent to the will of Genghis Khan.
There we go, there's a second ram. So the ram should be able to do most of the tanking of the keep, whilst the main force takes on the remnants of their forces, and then the keep itself. Hopefully relatively safely. And that's it, that's all she wrote. That is the end of this mission. GG's.
The great keep at Xiangyang Pass burned to the ground, giving the Mongols a secure route into the heart of Qin territory. As pillars of smoke billowed from the mountain pass, Genghis Khan charged forward into new lands and on to his ultimate goal, the wealthy Qin capital of Zhongdu. The Mongol Empire was one of the largest the world had ever known. This couldn't have been achieved without the hardiness and endurance of the Mongol horse. The Mongol horse was the Empire's main mode of transport. From the extreme heat of the Gobi Desert to the harsh sub-zero temperatures of Eastern Europe, it had to be adaptable to any type of condition. Professor Del Jaborgian is an expert on this breed.
The Mongolian steppe is very cold in winter and very hot in summer. So Mongolian horse has very thick coat and long hair and very hard hoofs.
Left untrimmed and unshod, their hooves are perfect for crossing all types of terrain. And by feeding themselves on what was naturally available from the land, the army was freed from carrying additional fodder on campaign.
In winter, it can pour off the snow and eat the grass underneath.
But it wasn't just their versatility that made them invaluable. It was also their ability to travel great distances quickly, made possible by a unique fifth gate. The fifth gate is an energy-efficient pace that enables the Mongol horse to travel at a steady speed for long periods of time. And the running style is almost bounce-free, meaning a warrior could endure longer rides and even sleep whilst on the move. Today's Mongolian crossbreeds still have this ability. But like any horse, carrying a person at speed couldn't be kept up indefinitely. This meant that before the horse became tired, the rider could switch to a fresh one.
When they train the horse, they just change it on the move from one saddle to another saddle.
By repeatedly switching horses, a mounted warrior could travel vast distances much faster than conventional armies. With their speed, adaptability, and endurance, the Mongol horse was the engine that drove the Mongol army to victory. Genghis Khan had successfully breached the Great Wall of China. He led his forces to the greatest prize in the East, the capital city of Zhongdu. He besieged the city, knowing that its inhabitants could not hold out forever. Bearing down the gleaming capital of Zhongdu, Genghis Khan raised the Black Banner of War on his historic enemy, the Qin dynasty. To take the heavily garrisoned capital, the Mongols would have to starve its army by eliminating Chengdu's suppliers. But first, the Khan directed his warriors to raid Qin buildings and villages surrounding Chengdu.
Alright, cool. This is another fun mission. Very raid heavy, this one.
Word of the army's wealth would spread, compelling Mongol soldiers from the north to join the fight, seeking spoils of their own.
So we're going to want to take out a little village, and we want to be trying to get in as much gold as possible through raiding, essentially. So for the first part of this game, we really want to just get as much gold as possible. Gold is where we just get loads of extra free troops. It tends to stick around every other 250 gold you receive. We're also going to be using our scout to just get a little feel for the map. Make our lives easier later on. We're at 50 gold short, so we want one more building to try and take out if we can find it. Again, another interesting note. It seems like it's 50 gold, wood, and food for pillaging at the moment. It does scale upwards. I don't know what the trigger is, or whether it's just certain maps. It could just be a campaign thing. I'm not entirely sure, if I'm being honest. But yeah, there are other missions in the campaign where you get 150 gold, wood, and food per building destroyed. Which is quite the difference, let me tell you. Alright, so once we destroy this building, we can get our reinforcements and start actually do some base building.
Hearing of the Khan's successful raids, Mongol settlers and soldiers arrived to join his army.
The main thing we're going to be focusing on with the settlement is gold.
With his numbers steadily growing, the Khan turned his attention to the capital. He sought to starve Chengdu's army by cutting off its suppliers.
want to get some pastures down for the food production. And then we want to get the Gur down as close as we can to the gold mine. Because whilst the game insinuates that you kind of want to raid to get the gold, you can actually just mine gold straight up. Which is, you know, it helps. And considering they're free troops, it's the fastest way to get an army in this game, or this mission. Group all these units up so it's one big team. And we'll get these villagers on gold production. Want to set up ready for our burst of stables and our lancer production. So the Uvu is actually a really interesting building because it automatically mines stone but at a very slow rate. That being said, what it does allow you to do is spend stone as well as your normal resources to actually, with stables for example, or like military buildings, you can build twice the amount of units per tick, or it improves the upgrades, makes them stronger or better. But I say stone is quite a slow process of gathering, and it is quite expensive, but it's a very interesting mechanic that the Mongols have. Pretty cool. Okay, let's get ourselves into the next stage. Alright, so I'm going to send these guys down here and start raiding the southern area of the map. Meanwhile, we'll send the stable up to the north. And we'll get these villagers, start building some stables and outposts and all the other bits and bobs. Plus, we can gather some wood as well.
Genghis Khan's army struck down the trader that was headed to resupply Zhongdu. For every trader killed, Zhongdu lost several days' worth of supplies. The Mongols were systematically choking the city and starving its garrison.
Alright, so we'll lay waste to this village over here. We still need to wait for our second age to get lancers and Mandagai, and we do need to raid more to get food. Start building ourselves some more pastures so we can improve our food production, since that is our primary resource that we need.
The Mongols left the Shunyi market in ruins, ensuring the village could no longer send supplies to Zhongdu. In destroying the supplying markets, the Mongols denied Zhongdu critical supplies, leaving its garrison weakened. A Qin trader made it safely into the city and reported on the Mongols' numbers and movements. Zhongdu would now allocate any military supplies it received to rallying counterattacks on the steppe invaders.
Alright, we'll start grouping this army together. And then take on the north town. So we've got 2 control groups, one in the north, one in the south, and then we'll converge on the far right hand side. So we're now at the point where we can really start pumping out the troops, which is ideal. We are short on food though, unfortunately. It's the Mongolians have a slight challenge in that they're not as efficient at gathering food as other, should we say, Western civilizations, because of the way that pastures work. It generates sheep every 60 seconds. And they're definitely not as effective as farms. Which are basically an unlimited food source.
Despite the Mongols' efforts to stop them, enough Qin traders had entered Zhongdu to fully resupply its military. Choosing their moment, the Qin launched a counterattack.
Ah, hell, Ginny. You've been holding out on me. Kudos to anyone who gets that reference, by the way. You actually took out my leader. Luckily, reviving in this game's actually busted. It's too easy and too effective.
The Mongols put down the Qin counterattack. But another would soon come if Qin traders continued to resupply Chengdu's military. The market at Tongzhou was set aflame, and with it many vital supplies intended for the city. As the Mongols continued to sabotage the city's supplies, Chengdu's garrison grew weaker by the day. In raising the market at Fangshen, the Mongols had severed a critical supply line to the capital.
Yeah, our production's in full swing now. It looks like we're gaining the 150 now. Interesting. Yeah, we're definitely gaining 150 every time we destroy a building. Huh. Maybe it's an upgrade thing.
Without hesitation, the Khan's warriors put their torches to the market at Darsing, snuffing out weeks of Zhongdu's supplies.
Wait, it's going up 175?
With Zhongdu devastated by starvation, the walls of the great Qin capital were devoid of soldiers, and only a diminished garrison remained. Desperate and isolated, Zhongdu could no longer resist. The time had come for Genghis Khan to launch his assault on the city.
Interesting. So you actually gain 100... Hang on. So when did it tick over to 150? When I entered the second age? And yet it didn't in the last mission. So maybe it is campaign driven to a degree. That's very interesting. Because the upgrade took it from 150 to 175, which is what the text says it does. So that makes sense in that respect. But I didn't spot when it must have changed over when I hit level tier 2. It's very interesting. I'm not entirely sure. That's an interesting one. I have to keep an eye on that in future missions as to what actually is triggering to gain 3 times the amount of resources from destroying enemy buildings. It's definitely an interesting mechanic. We're in, boys. We're in.
Genghis Khan unleashed the wrath of his Mongol warriors on the heart of the beleaguered city.
Alright, so we actually don't even need to destroy all 3 landmarks. We just need to get them down pretty low.
The great Qin monument was put to flame. Mongol victory was within reach.
I actually don't think you need to destroy the landmarks. I think you only need to destroy the keep at the end. But we'll destroy the landmarks. And then move on to the keep. And that'll be all she wrote.
The city was ready to fall in the wake of the destruction wrought by the Mongols.
All right, GG's.
Zhongdu fell to the wrath of Genghis Khan's warriors, yielding great riches for the Mongol Empire. The sacking of Zhongdu would be remembered as one of Genghis Khan's most devastating victories. But this was just the beginning of his quest to create a global empire under Mongol rule. The Mongols were famed for their archers, and at the heart of their success was the clever engineering of the Mongol bow. The Mongol bow was part of a family of bows. Different cultures made these in varying shapes, but they were all made of the same materials. They were all composite bows, assembled from several parts. Lukas Novotny is a world-class horse archer and a master composite bow maker.
Here we have a wooden core. That's what we begin with. The core is basically the invisible part of the bow. All we see in a bow is always the flesh. However, we never see the skeleton. Just like in a human, we know it's there.
The wooden parts are fitted together with precision joints, giving the bow its distinctive shape.
Okay. Now, we have the tips. They go in like so.
These tips of the bow are non-bending. They act as levers that allow you to draw a much stronger bow than you normally would be able to. It's a genius bit of engineering.
The next stage in assembling the composite materials is to laminate the wooden core with strips of horn. A tool called a tendiek ensures that even pressure is applied to the glued surfaces.
That's a lot of pressure. I have to work to really kind of keep this in place.
Horn resists compression and stores energy. It is the muscles of the bow. The bowmaker then applies the sinew. This is dried animal tendons that have been pounded and shredded to produce fine fibers of considerable tensile strength. Bundles of combed sinew are moistened with water, then soaked in glue made from the swim bladders of fish. The sinew is applied carefully, layer by layer. One medieval text states that all of the skill lies in the laying of the sinew.
You have to really be quick with your hands. You have to make sure the fibers are straight.
Keeping the sinew straight is essential. If the limbs are not perfectly true, the bow risks twisting in action.
A finished Mongol bow is usually covered with leather or birch bark to protect it from the elements. But the horn is exposed. That is where the power is.
In the hands of highly skilled mobile horse archers, the Mongol bow became one of the most legendary weapons in history. On June 1st, 1215, the city of Zhongdu, known today as Beijing, fell to the Mongols. They looted the city, sending caravans loaded with luxuries back home. This victory over the Qin dynasty was to be one of Genghis Khan's greatest triumphs. After his death in 1227, his descendants continued the conquests, and his grandson, Batu Khan, had his eyes on the west. The Mongol raids of the 1220s had shown that the Rus lands held riches worth exploiting. The battles had devastated the Rus elite, and their defenses were weak. So Batu Khan organized an enormous invasion force, determined to turn the Rus lands into vassals of the Mongol Empire. The Mongols captured territory after territory. By 1240, they had their sights on the great city of Kiev. Kiev was a jewel among the Rus principalities, a center of scholarship, power, and wealth. Batu Khan's cousin Monka was put in command of the advance force, ready to attack. Chroniclers tell of Monka's admiration for the beauty of Kiev, so he was reluctant to destroy it. Monka sent his envoys to the city to demand its surrender. But Kiev's commander-in-charge refused and killed the Mongol envoys. Monka would not stand for such disrespect. His army rode to the city walls and prepared to attack. They would show Kiev no mercy. Mongol Khan's drive into the west brought the Mongol army to the splendid city of Kiev, the gateway to Europe. The Kievan commander had refused to surrender, leaving Mongol only one choice: to take the city by force.
Yeah, boys! Best mission in this campaign, in my opinion. So good. And it's a lot down to the fact that you can raid, and raiding just works perfectly with this mission. It's so good. The challenge isn't in gathering resources, it's in spending it. My kind of mission. This is like the ultimate macro mission. I love it. So we get the full works of 150 resources per building destroyed. And yeah, let me tell you, we're gonna have so many resources. It is gonna be nuts. I love this mission so much. It perfectly fits with the Mongol playstyle as well, like the raid system. It's ideal.
The Mongol army broke through the gates of Kiev and marched on the city. Mongol Khan called on his people to bring in their mobile camp, while his forces secured a location for it. The immediate area beyond Kiev's main gate was lightly populated, but rich in resources. Beyond lay 3 fortified districts: the outer city, the inner city, and a wealthy trade district. The Khan was determined to punish the defiance of Kiev, and would not relent until the entire city fell to ash.
So we want to start building our stables around the stone.
The Mongols unpacked their camp, ready to continue their assault on Kiev.
The reason we're doing that is so that we can take full advantage of the ×2 unit production. We're actually going to be using pretty much exclusively lancers and Mangadai in this mission. So stables are pretty much all we need.
The Mongols took out a Kievan supply convoy and claimed the resources for themselves.
I mean, you'll notice that the resources are already mad. We've barely started. Yeah, it's a really fun, fast-paced mission. In my opinion, a personal favorite from this entire campaign. And arguably one of the best campaign missions in Age of Empires 4, honestly. It's so fun. Gonna try and get to Age 3 as quick as possible. Especially as we've got the resources, there's no reason not to. As you can see, I can barely spend my resources fast enough. I'm getting more resources than I can actually spend. It is just a testament to this mission and how fun and enjoyable it is to play. So as we're pushing into the market district, we need to be a little bit careful of their ballista or springalds, just because they do AOE damage, and they're pretty devastating against a tightly packed army like we have. Since food and gold is the primary resource for this this mission, we're not going to be getting any wood. We literally don't need it. We'll be gaining all the wood we need from pillaging enemy lands. Which lovely it is.
The unstoppable Mongol army leveled the trade district of Kiev, putting an end to any supplies they could send to the main city.
So we're going to be heading towards the outer city next. Find ourselves plenty of resistance on the way. Still quite a few houses and things around here that we want to take out just for the resources. There's a little trick we can do with the can, and that is with the production. We can absolutely power the hell out of these troops. It's actually insane just how quickly these buildings produce now for a short period of time, but yeah, we can legit just create the most ridiculous army very quickly on this mission. So now we've got 2 control groups, so we can deal with all the outlying villages. Again, this is purely for the raid factor. Just, man, it's nuts. What a great mission, by the way. What a great mission. Like, just the speed at which you can get so much population is actually mad. Yeah, we kind of got an excess of gold and not enough food at the moment, so moving a couple of villagers over to foraging is a sensible choice. But as we raise all the farms and whatnot, we'll soon have a ridiculous amount of resources again. It's just, that combination is just ridiculous. It really is. I mean, I love it. It's fantastic, but also completely busted and broken. Yeah. The ability to produce that many units that quickly should be illegal. I've got like 26 villagers. Look at the army. Oh, madness. And if there's ever any doubt as to why this is my favorite mission, yeah, I mean, what's not to like about this? This is Absolutely fantastic.
The Horde devastated the outer city.
Oh my days, it's so stupid, guys. This is so silly. Wow. The fact that's even a thing is hilarious. So funny to me. Whoever came up with this mission's a genius. Love it. It is quite interesting how varied the missions are in this game. Like, no two missions actually feel the same for the most part. GG's? Question mark.
As the last buildings collapsed, the Mongol victory was complete. Kiev had fallen. Genghis Khan and his Mongol warriors ran freely through the ravaged city, cutting down any survivors and plundering its riches. With Kiev under Mongol control, the gateway to Europe was open, and the empire could continue its conquest into the west. The vast Mongol Empire was created by warfare, but it was governed by bureaucracy. Good communications across the empire were vital, and that was the job of the Yam Riders. The Yam was an incredibly well-organized postal system, introduced by Genghis Khan over 800 years ago. It consisted of a network of relay stations, linked by high-speed riders.
These riders were so fast, they were known as the arrow messengers. You know, they rode at such a bruising pace that they would have to use these cloths to support their abdomen, their spine, and their internal organs.
Yam messengers wore a sash of bells, so they could be heard approaching from a distance. With this advance warning, a fresh relay horse could be ready as soon as they arrived.
Remounting like this allows us to travel several relays each day.
With a constant stream of riders, official messages could be carried quickly to and from all corners of the empire. In China alone, the Yam had over 14,000 relay depots and over 50,000 horses. In some areas, the relay stations were much closer together. Here, the system also used fast runners. However, it was the hard-riding couriers that made the Yam such a rapid communications web. And to ensure it ran smoothly, riders carried a medallion, the Paiza. Paizas acted as passports and gave the owner authority to demand goods and services from the Yam stations and the local population. The Yam messengers were the lifeblood that flowed through the great Mongol Empire. With Kiev secure, the Mongols planned a coordinated drive deeper into Europe. They would divide the forces of Poland and Hungary by attacking both kingdoms simultaneously. At Liegnitz, the old armies of Europe would be tested against Mongol-style warfare. In the fertile grasslands of Liegnitz, the Mongols would face Europe's greatest armies, led by the forces of Poland. An army from Bohemia was marching to assist the Polish forces gathering at Liegnitz. Together, they hoped to stop the Mongols before Western Europe succumbed to a full-scale invasion. If the Mongols acted quickly, they could defeat the scattered Polish army and force the Bohemians to withdraw.
Alright, so this is a bit of a strange mission, this one. It's quite short, and yeah, it can't actually build anything other than units. So
by raiding the enemy's farmland, the Mongols could plunder valuable resources. As the farms smoldered and smoke billowed to the sky, the Mongols claimed the spoils from the wreckage. The Mongols had adopted gunpowder technology from their Chinese subjects, and now brought with them the mighty Nest of Bees. This explosive projectile weapon allowed them to target the enemy with a devastating barrage of rockets.
yeah, so Nest of Bees are definitely a S+ tier unit. They are so good. They're pretty strong, as in like they don't die very easily. They have the most ridiculous AoE attack. They do so much damage. And they're actually native to China. So normally Mongolia doesn't have access to the Nest of Bees, I don't believe. Certainly not in multiplayer. But because of the campaign, it's, you know, whatever goes, I guess. Which is fine, it makes perfect sense for the campaign. Legitimately one of the best artillery units in the game. Like, bar none. I don't think there is... I mean, outside of the real gunpowder units, the, like Bombard, Great Bombard, and Culverins, I guess. But yeah, if you take those out of the equation, then Nest of Bees are definitely one of the best anti-military artillery weapons in the game, for sure. Especially in the Castle Age. They're just so good.
The Mongols defeated the Polish detachment and continued their unrelenting drive.
I guess the only challenge with this mission is trying to maneuver the enemy into your army, because sometimes they just take the odd pathing, really. Yeah, the goal is actually only to defeat all the main army, or all the combat zones. Not sure why we broke aggro there, to be honest. I mean, this is a prime example of why Nest of Bees are so good. Like, even knights struggle to deal with them. Knights, which are a natural counter to artillery. And not really a counter to Nest of Bees. It's kind of like an exception to the rule, really. And like infantry like this, just, yeah. When there's 5 Nest of Bees, good luck. Like I said, the fact that knights can't even beat Nest of Bees is Testament to how good Nest of Bees actually are. Just need to join the last group now. There we go, that's all she wrote for this mission.
The Mongols eliminated Poland's knights, dealing a critical blow to the European forces. Despite being outnumbered by the European armies, the Mongols were victorious. As fire scorched the farmlands of Liegnitz, Europe reeled in horror. The ingenuity of the Mongol Empire had brought a terrifying new kind of destruction to the doorstep of the West. Nomads followed their flocks and herds. A Mongol family might move up to 30 times a year to seek fresh grazing.
Nomadic people civilization is different from the settled civilization. It's based on open field, movement, and horseback riding lifestyle. And music is one of the most important elements of this kind of way of life.
A central theme in Mongolian music is the horse.
All Mongol life was lived on horses. That's part of the Mongol identity, is the music of the horse.
The most iconic Mongolian instrument was the morin kor.
Morin kor in Mongolian language, it means horse head fiddle.
The strings came from a horse's tail. 120 hairs for the top, female string, and 150 for the bottom, male string. Everything to do with the morin kor related to horses, and it could even imitate their sounds. A distinctive aspect of Mongolian music is throat singing.
Throat singing is an ancient way of singing that imitates the echo from the nature.
Throat singing is the sound of the steppe, the wind, the earth, the animals. Music was also used to tell stories. In this praise song, two horses run away from Genghis Khan for a life in the wild. But they miss his kindness, and so they return. The prospect of being immortalized in a praise song was a powerful motivation for warriors on the battlefield. While the Mongols in the north destroyed the Polish army, Batu Khan and General Subutai rampaged through the south into the heart of Hungary. Tricked into an intense pursuit, the Hungarian king chased down these foreign invaders, all the way to the plains of Mohi. Batu Khan led his warriors across the plains, luring the Hungarian king to a battle site far from the safety of his city. As the Hungarians broke away to regroup across the Sayo River, the Mongols prepared to strike.
Alrighty, so from one slightly different mission to another.
General Subutai would soon arrive to join Batu, having escorted the Mongol camp to the battle site. While the Khan waited for his general, the Mongol vanguard would probe across the bridge to the north. Across the bridge, the Mongol soldiers found themselves heavily outnumbered and beat a hasty retreat away from the ambush.
Basically just luring these knights into the main army. No need to take any unnecessary fights when your allies can do all the heavy lifting.
This was not the first time Batu had been outnumbered. Drawing on past victories, he began to stage a coordinated attack. Arriving at the battle site, General Subutai quickly assessed the situation. The Mongols approached the Sayo River and discovered a shallow crossing.
So we're going to start by building our Rovo over here, followed by our upgrade buildings, so we can get that started ASAP Rocky. Now we're actually going to skip mangonels on this particular mission. A, because they're slow, and B, because really they're not really needed. It's actually better to spend the resources we have on stables and horsemen. But we are going to focus our resource gathering on food and gold. Meanwhile, we can raise this village, which is kind of neutral, but we can raise it just to gain resources. It's worth taking at least one villager over there just to fix the bridge. And then we're going to start building up our forces for the left-hand side.
The Mongols discovered a potential alternative river crossing, a broken bridge.
We're actually going to save the buildings that remain just until the raising structures upgrade is complete. I love the throat singing of the Mongol culture. So cool. Such a like powerful tone as well. Like it really gives power to the Mongol music. I love it. It's very impressive. Very impressive. We're actually going to move a couple of villages away from berries and onto deer, simply because deer is a more effective source of food gathering, meaning you can gather food much faster than via berries. So now we've done the upgrade, we can start raising this village. Unfortunately, I think that is the last building, but we've already got a decent sized army now on this side, so we're just gonna round it out. Finish off our upgrades as well.
Бүгд сонс. Гөрөөлгүй сайхан бүлгөө.
Бидэнд тушаам уу? Юунд үлбий вэ? Хөдөл. Готод юугаа амс. Ягсгүй цаг болбай. Эрчүүдэ. Анхаарахгүй.
What's the time there, Batu? Oh yes, go time.
Анхаарахгүй. Би өгдөггүй дагсуу. Жиргэлэн ах. Бүтэл муу тавтал. Хари зэрэлгээр болсон. Тулдах цаг ирлээ. Эрчүүдэ. Амахан. Ошаанууч байвгүй. Мор харваач дэмшаад юу мөг. Цааг.
Alright, time to pull the trigger, so to speak. Let's go.
Subutai signaled to Batu that he was in position, and they began their coordinated strike on the bridge. The Mongols took the bridge and held the open space, forcing the Hungarians into the trees and splitting them into several groups. Now the Mongols could drive the Hungarians back to their camp. One small space with nowhere to run.
So we're going to clear these units, and then we're going to group everyone on the right-hand side. And then Batu Khan and his knights will attack on the left-hand side. And then we'll pincer him in the middle. Like any good tactician worth his salt.
With the Hungarians pinned down, the Mongols closed in to destroy the last of their army.
It's worth having the one knight on the left-hand side just to try and trigger our ally to attack. Otherwise, sometimes they just don't, and they just sit around doing nothing. But the main goal really is just to get an army up onto the hill. Once you're there, it's GG's.
The Mongols laid waste to the Hungarian fort, sending their king and the last of his army fleeing for their lives. Once again, Batu Khan and General Subutai had outwitted and utterly destroyed their European enemies, striking terror into the heart of the West. The Mongols used all manner of ingenious machines, from trebuchets to giant crossbows. They were masters of siege warfare and recruited Chinese military engineers to build their devices. In this copy of an 11th century Chinese manual, Justin Ma has discovered an unusual weapon.
This is a triple crossbow, a large triple crossbow in an arrangement where we have two bows in front, and here's the weird thing. You've got one bow in the back, facing backwards. There is a term in this passage which says that the bows are joined using a Zhongdu, or a rope and axle, a pulley.
Okay, yeah. A pulley is the key, and that's the absolute essential ingredient in this contraption to make it work.
The front bows are joined by two simple cords. However, the rear bow is set facing backwards. The front two bows are strung and set to face forwards. The rear bow is then connected to the front bows by a single cord, running through two pulleys. This pulley system allows all three bows to thrust a projectile in the same direction.
Now these pulleys make sense. Sort of spanning around here, reversing the direction.
A winding mechanism, called a windlass, draws the string into place.
You can see that tension as it's pulling that last bow in reverse.
A crucial part of the design is the backwards-facing bow. This unique feature gives the machine a huge draw, making it capable of shooting massive darts.
There's a lot of tension in there.
The projectile strikes with impressive force.
Golly.
Well, it's gone through three.
Piercing 3 boards on the first attempt, the team decides to increase the challenge.
Let's do it. Quite exciting. Let's see if it really can punch a hole through that fourth one. It went all through 3 of them, and it punched a slight hole on the side of the fourth.
In battle, such weapons might be used to penetrate shields, but this heavy oak barrel poses an even greater challenge.
Aha, we got the hole. Look at it. A lot of leaking out. I didn't think we're gonna be able to punch this. I mean, it's just incredible.
This is impressive. I mean, this took a lot of force, too.
Look at the thickness of it. And this is some hard wood. I mean, this is not just some particle board here. Okay? I mean, this is incredible.
Embracing the knowledge and skills of the people they conquered enabled the Mongols to win wars and control vast territories. This was key to the creation of one of the world's largest empires. After a stunning victory over the Hungarian king at the Battle of Mohi, the Mongols seemed unstoppable. But a year later, the great Khan Ogedei died. The Mongols pulled out of Europe and returned home. Over the next 20 years, 2 more great Khans ascended to the throne. Their conquests continued to expand the empire in the east. Then in 1260, the grandson of Genghis became the next great Khan. His name was Kublai Khan. He would rock the foundations of one of the medieval world's most advanced civilizations, China. This is Zhongdu. Remembered today as Xanadu, it was once Kublai Khan's great northern capital. From here, he jealously eyed the wealth of southern China's Song dynasty. He wanted to take it and become emperor of all China. The Song dynasty had ruled over southern China for more than 300 years. And the country was prosperous and well-governed. Kublai Khan knew that the key to victory was capturing a strategic city lying far to the south of Zhongdu. It was called Xiangyang. Xiangyang was the gateway to the south and the heart of the Song dynasty's power. Controlling the Han River, a critical access route to cities further along the Yangtze. Capturing Xiangyang was Kublai Khan's only hope of becoming emperor of all China. The Mongol Horde had to take the city at all costs. Kublai Khan, not content with rule over his own lands, coveted the riches of the Song dynasty to the south. He ordered his army to the twin cities of Fancheng and Xiangyang, confident in his tried and tested tactics. Although Kublai's ultimate target was the fortress of Xiangyang, the Mongols would first have to control its sister city of Fancheng.
This is a bit of an interesting, it's kind of like one of a 2-part mission, this one. First part's pretty straightforward, and the second part's a little bit longer winded, but I guess it is what it is. So we're going to be breaking off a small force here, just so that we can raid the enemy villages for resources, whilst the bulk of the force takes on the main objectives of the mission. We've also got a couple of scouts to uncover the map.
The Mongols cleared the bridge of its guards and continued their advance on Fancheng.
So it is actually worth taking down a good amount of structures here, just because you are going to be required to use resources for the second part of this this mission. Hence the splinter group. It'll just save us messing around later on. Kind of odd that you can't attack the overturned carts. Like, who knew overturned carts were actually better than walls in this game? Like, at least walls you can break and destroy, right? Unlike the famous indestructible cart. There are quite a few chests dotted around this map. Again, you don't have to pick them up, but it does make our lives a bit easier later on.
The Mongols spotted a fortified Song camp, blocking the road to the Twin Cities. Seeing an opportunity to overwhelm the enemy camp, the Mongols called in their reinforcements. Together, the two detachments would strike the camp from both sides, pincering the Song.
I did make the slight error of putting everything under one hotkey there. So when I move one army away, it pulls both of them. Well, it's not that big a deal, but... Kind of nuts how much damage we do to wooden palisades and gates. They just don't stand a chance. We're going to take down the main buildings, and then we'll use our splinter group to finish off the rest. With the tents and stuff. So there's a little monastery over here to the left, which is actually worth going to just to heal up your troops. At least the ones who need it. And there are quite a few monks here as well, so it doesn't even take that long. We'll start triggering the rest of this mission whilst with the Mandagai, whilst the Lancers get rest up and get healed.
The Mongols met with the Allied assault force at the gates of Fancheng. As the Allied force charged the gates, the Mongol vanguard moved to defend the siege weapons from Song attacks.
So we're actually not going to follow the standard rules of engagement. We're actually going to go straight to where the enemies are attacking us, basically, which is on the second bridge. And that is a 2 Nesta bees plus an army that's all grouped up like that is a death sentence, naturally.
As the Mongols approached, the Song burned the bridge to Xiangyang, preventing a direct assault on the fortress. With the Song camp destroyed, the Mongols set in motion their plan to seize the twin cities. First, they would meet with an allied force at the gates of Fancheng. This assault force would attack the gates of Fancheng, while the Mongol vanguard would defend the siege weapons firing upon the cities. The assault on Fancheng was met with a barrage of gunfire, forcing the allied army to retreat.
So interestingly, this particular mission is part of a 3-mission mini-campaign in of itself, which is quite cool.
With the gates still unbroken and under guard, the Mongols switched strategies and called on a large group of reinforcements to bring in their mobile camp. The Mongols would besiege the mighty twin cities.
Alright, so now this is the second phase of this mission.
The Mongols rallied a force on the bridgehead. The Mongol strategy was to hold the city's bridges so that no Song forces could escape and no reinforcements could enter.
So the plan here is to try and we need to put 55 units on each of the 3 bridge locations, basically. One short, so that we can treat as a separate control group and get them to join Team 2. And these guys are all the new Team 1. And these guys need to start building some structures. What's interesting about this, it doesn't actually matter what units you use, so long as they are military units. This basically acts as an OVO, which is pretty cool. It means we can double up on unit production. I miscalculated the space that takes up, actually, so we'll move him away. Don't need that to be part of the double production. I'd rather have the blacksmith, just so that we can get all the upgrades, like the improved upgrades. Might as well upgrade the units and then we'll start pumping them. And we got so many resources, it honestly doesn't really matter. And actually we got quite a lot of stone, so it's worth going for the ×2 options. I've actually got way too much wood, so might as well convert that to gold. And then we can also transfer gold to other resources as and when we need it. Food will be the one we run out of first, for sure. Can't make any civilian units like villagers. I'm assuming because of the population limit. Is why they didn't have that as a thing. So it looks like we're going to be 3 units short. So we'll grab 3 units and put them into the second area. And everything else we can just pull over to the far left. Far right, sorry. Just gotta make sure we don't lose anything on the far left side. That could be a little bit annoying. Would have been nice to have more villages so we can build more stables and whatnot, but it's fine. It is what it is.
The Mongols took up position on the last bridgehead. Seeing that the Mongols were attempting to block the city's escape routes, the Song began planning a counterattack.
Alright, so we've got about 40 seconds to prepare ourselves for the inevitable Song counterattacks. It doesn't actually matter if we keep our units alive, necessarily. We don't have to maintain the 55 units at each location anymore. But we have reached our population limit, so there is that. What I find interesting with this particular phase is how many units you have to bring to each part and how few units they send to counterattack.
The Song launched their counterattack on the Mongols holding the bridgeheads. The Mongols had to hold the 3 bridgeheads against the Song attacks.
Like, it feels massively improportionate. Like, massively overkill from our side. Bearing in mind each point has allies as well, so it's not just our units, it's also our allies' troops as well. It's kind of nuts. We made the mistake of having our archers at the back. It's not ideal. Don't like seeing that. Again, not that it matters. I don't know why they send so few troops. It's kind of weird to me that we have to have that many troops defend each lane, and yet they only send like what, a dozen units each. It's like, okay, sure. Well, I guess that's 2 dozen, but you know, still. Compared to how many units we have, that just feels like really odd to me. It's not like we're even playing on the easiest difficulty either. So yeah, I got no answer. GG's.
Desperate to stop an all-out Mongol assault on their walls, the Song destroyed the remaining bridges to the twin cities. Unable to advance, the fortress of Xiangyang remained locked to the Mongols. But with a siege established, the Khan's cause was not yet lost. The twin cities did not yield. The Mongols would need a new tactic to breach the Great Song fortress. Rather than another costly head-on assault, they planned to cut off the cities by blocking the critical supply route at Lumen Shan. The Song defector, General Liu Zheng, advised Kublai Khan that the best strategy to take Xiangyang was to construct a blockade, completely cutting it off. Liu Zheng led the Mongol army to the trade route at Lumen Shan and set his plan in motion. The general's plan depended on recruiting local workers who could build defenses. The first step was to eliminate the Song garrison near the village of Lumen.
Alright, so this is the penultimate mission in the Mongol campaign. And is the second of 3 parts. So we're going to do something not cheesy necessarily, but probably a little bit off book, shall we say. Just to make our lives considerably easier for this mission. First things first, we just need to take out a bunch of enemies. So capturing the fort is pretty straightforward. There's no real major confrontations. You also want to use one of the, both of our scouts to uncover some of the map, because there are a couple of goodies dotted around. But specifically we want to get one of the scouts down to the bottom of the map, where there's a village that will defect to us, basically. We want to get into position to capture that straight away, once the opportunity arises.
The Mongol army tore through the Song garrison, and with these guardians removed, the people of Lumen gave their support to Liu Zheng and Kublai Khan. Controlling Lumen allowed Liu Zheng to employ Chinese tactics and equipment, including the construction of stone walls. He ordered the people to build walls to block the roads north, cutting off Xiangyang from the rest of the Song.
So this is the point where we split our army into 2. And we're also going to build a gate over here. And then we're going to go to the spawn location where the enemy Rus units jump in, basically, for the next phase. And it makes defending considerably easier. Rather than trying to defend 4 locations, you only have to, 3 locations, you only have to defend 2. Again, it's slightly off script, but it's also considerably more effective.
The people of Lumen reported that the village of Boheko, located to the west, would also welcome Liu Zheng's arrival. If the general could get forces to Boheko, it would add both an economic and military boost to his blockade.
集中注意力。好，大家出发。
Alright, and that's why we put the scout there earlier.
Boheko not only welcomed Liu Zheng's men, but members of the local militia even defected to the Mongol cause.
大家听好，命令
Now we
即
can
将
move
下
these
达。
guys over here just to build the next wall,
我这就
or final wall. So the benefit of just picking up loads of gold is we can sell it for stone, which will be super useful in a bit.
Stout walls now blocked off the first of the major routes to Xiangyang.
We actually don't really need a huge amount of gold. We don't need much wood and we don't need much food, so really stone is the only real resource that we need in any huge amount. And we're going to build forts.
Liu Zheng's vision was complete. The Mongols' great blockade now cut off the Song cities. However, the Song commanders would not leave Xiangyang to stand alone and sent forces to break through the Mongol barrier.
So this is where the trick works. Basically, because the mid and top path are both come through this location where we're got the army, it means we don't have to defend both areas. We only have to defend one. The bottom is a little bit more tricky, and that's where things can sometimes fall apart a little bit. But as long as you know where their enemy's going to spawn in, it's actually pretty straightforward. But we are going to build a fort there too.
集中注意力，命令即将下达。
So the first wave will come from the bottom, and this is where the trick happens, because we need to, if we can block the bottom attack, it will make it much easier to defend the bottom, because the enemies will attack on both the distance it takes the army on the far bottom right to get to your fort or your gate will coincide with exactly when the enemy spawns in the bottom attack, so you end up defending on two fronts at once. So if you can just jump on top of this army as it spawns, pretty much, or anywhere along its trajectory, you only have to fight half the army basically. Otherwise you'll be defending on two fronts, which is never ideal. And we can also get cannon emplacements, which again makes it much easier to defend. And we can use our excess wooden food just to make a couple of extra units, which we can then pop at the front. And the first army should be big enough that we don't actually need to reinforce, especially with the fort. And we can also build a couple of outposts as well if we need to. But yeah, that's basically the trick. It's a bit of cheese, but also it's a an alternate way of looking at this mission. Why make your life difficult? I mean, to be fair, you could argue that some of these upgrades are pretty good. You're better off just with cannon emplacements plus army. So yeah, if we'd let the other army just make their way here naturally, they would have gotten to us now, and then we'd be fighting on two fronts. which is why we stopped them in their tracks, basically. And they'll do it again, so we need to make sure that we're in position to stop that. I mean, the challenge is when you start splitting up your units a second time, so you end up with like a quarter of the army rather than half the army. Which is why this trick works, basically, because you're not having to spread yourself thin over too many battles. We also sent an archer here just to scout, just so I can see when they spawn in, and then I can send the army over. Which is now, so now we can send the army over. The good thing about outposts, they only cost wood, not stone, so another use of the excess wood that we've got from the start of the mission. So that'll be the last of the attacks on the right sides. And we just got the final assault, which will be next to our keep on this side over here. And that's it. That is the end of this mission. Once we've tackled that last spawn, easy. One of those things, fight smarter, not harder. GG's.
The Mongols maintained control of the Song trade route at Lumen Shan, cutting off Xiangyang from the south. Thanks to the insights of General Liu Zheng, Kublai Khan's plan to weaken the Great Song fortress was working. Heavy cavalry was an integral part of the Mongol army. By definition, they were fully armored. Heavy cavalrymen were troops who went into the thick of the fighting.
Mongol heavy cavalry had steel helmets, but they also had this very distinctive form of armor here, known as lamina, made of steel, rawhide, and even leather. Now, in this example, you can see how the individual scales have been laced together, often with doe skin. Rows of lamellite, which in turn was then sewn into fabric or leather backing. Lamina armor is wonderfully robust. It's flexible, relatively lightweight, and easy to repair.
The Mongol heavy cavalryman, in his characteristic lamellar armor, was the hammer in the Mongol war machine.
All Mongols, both heavy and light cavalry, were capable horse archers. However, for the heavy cavalry, shock troops that rode into and smashed the enemy, the bow was of secondary importance. Their principal weapon of first contact was the lance.
Using the momentum of the horse, the lance was mostly used point first to strike and pierce a foe. It could be used with great precision. Strikes with the point were effective, but the Mongol lance had an additional feature.
Not only did you have the spearhead for running into and through the enemy, but you also had this hook to haul them from the saddle.
It took considerable strength to pull a man from his horse. And doing so took him out of the fighting just as successfully as a head-on strike.
In hand-to-hand combat, the Mongols used the sword to slice their way to victory. But they also had this, the Great Mace, which they used with two hands.
Mongol armies were famous for their ability to move fast and strike with surprise. But their heavy cavalry was a brutal shock force that could overwhelm and crush an enemy with raw power. Crippled by the loss of their supply route, the twin cities of Xiangyang and Fangcheng were ready to fall. The Mongols' new long-range trebuchets would test the mighty walls of the Song fortress, and Kublai Khan would not stop the bombardment until he sat on the throne of all China. After years of resisting Kublai Khan's siege, Fangcheng and Xiangyang still refused to submit to Mongol rule. To take the cities, Kublai Khan would harness the full power of his empire by enlisting an ally from the Ilkhanate of Persia. Ismail, a siege expert, would lead the Mongol army in the construction of the Huihui Pao, an immensely powerful counterweight trebuchet. This new trebuchet, once constructed, could hurl boulders greater in size than any weapon before it. During the years-long siege, Kublai Khan had established lucrative trade routes with Chinese market towns who swore loyalty to him. Although these trade partners were vulnerable to Song attacks, they could deliver valuable resources to fund Ismail's efforts.
Alright, we've got a lot to leverage here. We're going to be upgrading our horsemen, as they are going to be the bulk of our units, coupled with archers and crossbowmen and all that good stuff. I'm also going to be going and building a town centre here. This is ultimately going to be our second base of operations, close to the enemy. Gonna leverage that gold mine in the north. I'm going to be building a military presence over here as well. Right now we need stone, so stone is what we're going to get. We'll grab a couple more caravans.
아직도 작업다.
It's basically free gold and stone, both of which we'll need in abundance this mission.
도시아도 모두 사건돼.
бүгд сонс. Агс шин тушаадрлаа. Ажиллах цаг боллоо. Одоо үүнийг буудуугүй бидний тушаад ирвэ.
ажиллах цаг боллоо.
All right. Let's go for this instead.
Тушаадыг авсан хүнэ. Хатхад гэмгүй. Аанус дүүгээ юу хийхээ мэд тугаар анхааралтай баймуу. Буудуугүй бидний туш гэрж ившиг юу вэ? За, би бүслэлтийн хороо.
Time to start siege production.
Тушаадыг өгдөөгүй биелүүлмүү. Тушаа сонсогдгүй. Бүслэлтийн хороо өнцмүү. Хиймүү.
With the counterweight trebuchet constructed, the Mongols could mount their assault on the twin cities. As Ismail's trebuchet had a far greater range than those of the Song defenders, the Mongols could attack from a safe distance. Drawn to the bombardment from the trebuchet, the Song soldiers left gaps elsewhere in their defense, which the Mongols could exploit.
Definitely going to want a few more of these before we lay siege. Now we've got a load of wood, we can start actual production. So we need to use Ismail's sight ability in order to maximize the usefulness of these trebuchets. Right, now I need to sort out food. These guys have got that covered. I want to go for the increased build speed. I'll upgrade everything.
With Fancheng cracked open and the city under active bombardment, the Mongols could now rebuild the bridges that the Song had burned 6 years earlier.
Эрчүүдэ өтөр гүйцэтгэе. Эрчүүдэ зоригтой тагтгүй. Тэдний хармаж байна. Тушаал хүлээгүй бид олгоч номтонгуудаа хөдлөөрэй. Эе бэлдэцгээ. Баатадан. Баатаа. Тушаал. Эрчүүдэ хөдөл.
Once we actually get in, we can start raiding, and once we can start raiding, we're going to start seeing our economy boom.
With the bridge rebuilt, the doors to Fancheng were wide open. The Mongols swept into Fancheng, striking down any Song warriors in their path.
You need to be a little bit careful we don't overchase. This, get one of these built. Ismail's not a warrior or a fighter, so there's absolutely no point in bringing him into the front lines of battle. We want to get as many hand cannoneers. The other thing we need to do now is start building more stables, archery ranges. Take out the Barbican, need to take out these walls, make our lives easier. Ismail's sight ability is actually insane. You continue to build these because they're useful. There's no reason not to have them at all. That being said, we do want to be a bit careful we don't over push. Let's get these on the other side of this. Take down these two pieces of wall. Probably all of the trebuchets we need now. Right, we got so much resource now. Okay, we want is it this one for sure, and this one.
After years of holding out against the Mongols, the first of the twin cities finally fell to Kublai Khan's army. All that now stood between Kublai Khan and the throne of China was the final stronghold of the Song, the city of Xiangyang. Using the immense range of the Great Trebuchet, Ismail aimed to lay waste to Xiangyang's great keep. Ismail's counterweight trebuchet improved its might, shaking the earth and shattering the spirits of the Song. The great keep of Xiangyang had fallen. With Xiangyang's gate undefended, the Mongols could now repair the connecting bridge to the Song stronghold.
Lovely. Now we can crack on. With the city in disarray, the Mongols were free to tear down the imperial palace. Oh, we're maxed.
Mongol warriors flooded the streets of Xiangyang as the Song defenders rose to make a desperate last stand.
That's a lot of stuff, actually. Probably going to be a little bit careful here. There's a lot of gunmen though. Yeah, you know it's bad for them when they're pulling the militia, pulling the boys. That's not going to end well. And that is all she wrote.
Xiangyang, the great bastion of the Song dynasty, had fallen. Kublai Khan had finished what his grandfather, Genghis Khan, had started. And now, he could establish his own great dynasty and sit on the throne of all China. The Mongol army smashed through Xiangyang's defenses and captured the city. Kublai Khan then pursued the remnants of the Song dynasty across southern China. In 1279, at the Battle of Yamen, the Mongols destroyed the last defenders of the Song. Kublai Khan now ruled over all China, founding the Yuan dynasty. His royal court in Zhongdu welcomed scholars, traders, and religious leaders. The Mongols demonstrated civility and religious tolerance, but also brutality and violence, typifying the contradictions within the Mongol Empire. Since Genghis Khan first united the Mongolian tribes, they had made incredible advances in technology and trade. And they created indelible connections between East and West. At its height, almost 100 million people lived under Mongol rule, a quarter of the world's population. The Mongol Empire endured for less than 200 years, before fragmenting into smaller territories, but its legend continues to this day. Genghis Khan's mission was to unite the world into one empire. Yet he always returned to the Mongolian steppe, where the endless grasslands lay beneath the eternal sky. And from where he created one of the largest empires the world has ever known.